Maya thought the divorce would be the end of it. For months, she had imagined the papers as a door slamming shut, sealing Adrian and all the years of manipulation behind her. She'd pictured herself walking away lighter, freer, finally able to breathe without his shadow stretching across her every decision. The first few weeks after the court hearing had been just that. Quiet mornings with coffee in her new one-bedroom apartment. Evenings where she played music too loudly because no one was there to complain, and late-night walks in the park where she didn't have to text anyone explaining where she was. She reveled in the small freedoms, but freedom, she was learning, had cracks. It started at work. Maya had been at her marketing firm for 5 years, slowly climbing the ladder until she had a small team reporting to her. She was respected, if not flashy. One Monday morning, she walked into the office to hushed whispers and side glances. By lunch, her assistant finally confessed. Someone had sent an email from a fake account, claiming Maya had been fired from her last job for sleeping with a manager. It was absurd, an outright lie. But the damage was done. The rumor had circulated, planting a seed of doubt. Maya spent hours trying to track the source, only to realize the account had been created the same week Adrian had texted her, "You'll never outrun who you really are." She deleted the text, telling herself she was being paranoid. Surely he wouldn't, but she knew him. She'd lived with that cruel smile, the one that appeared when he thought he'd gotten away with something. By the second month, more cracks appeared. Her landlord called about noise complaints from her unit, though she rarely had visitors and went to bed before midnight. Someone had left a review on her professional profile, painting her as volatile, untrustworthy, and prone to breakdowns. The wording was eerily similar to arguments she used to have with Adrian, the phrases he'd repeat until she half believed them. Maya tried to push through. She buried herself in work, leaned on her best friend Layla, and told herself Adrian was just a phase of her life she'd already outgrown. He had no power unless she gave it to him. That illusion shattered the evening she returned home and found a bouquet of white lilies outside her door. Lilies, her least favorite flowers. Adrian had always bought them despite her protests, telling her, "They're elegant. You'll learn to appreciate them." A card was tucked among the stems. No words, just his initials. A.M. Maya stood in the hallway for nearly 10 minutes, her pulse racing, before she finally shoved the flowers down the trash chute. She told herself she wouldn't cry. Not for him. Not anymore. The breaking point came on a Thursday. Her team had been preparing a big presentation for a high-profile client, one that could secure months of work and elevate Maya's reputation in the firm. She double-checked everything, slides, notes, even the refreshments. The meeting began smoothly until the projector displayed not their carefully crafted pitch, but a slideshow of deeply personal photos. Maya at her lowest during the divorce, puffy-eyed and exhausted. Pictures she had only ever sent to Adrian when she begged him to leave her alone. The room went silent. Maya's boss leaned forward, jaw tight. Someone fumbled to shut the slideshow off, but the damage was irreparable. The client excused themselves politely. They never came back. Maya excused herself too, rushing into the bathroom where she locked the stall and pressed her hands to her face. Her body shook with rage and humiliation. There was no denying it anymore. Adrian wasn't just lingering on the edges of her life. He was actively dismantling it. That night, she finally called him. His number was still burned into her memory, though she hadn't dialed it in months. He answered on the first ring. "Maya," he said smoothly, as if they'd spoken yesterday. "I was wondering when you'd call." Her throat tightened. "You need to stop. Whatever you think you're doing, sending emails, sabotaging my job, it ends now," he chuckled. That same low, dismissive laugh that used to follow her whenever she tried to argue back. "Accusations already? Maybe you should slow down on the paranoia. People might think you're unstable." Her nails dug into her palm. "You're ruining my life. No, sweetheart, he said softly, almost tenderly. I'm reminding you who you are. Without me, you fall apart. Look at you now, scrambling, calling me, desperate. You need me more than you'll admit. Maya hung up, her hand trembling. She wanted to scream, to smash the phone against the wall, but instead she curled onto her couch, pulling her knees to her chest. She hated that a part of her still feared he was right. Weeks blurred together after that. She avoided social gatherings, knowing Adrian had a way of slipping into conversations through mutual friends. She stopped posting on social media altogether, tired of anonymous comments hinting at secrets only Adrian would know. Sleep became fractured. Every noise in the hallway felt like a prelude to his arrival. Layla tried to help, dropping by with takeout and reassurances, but Maya could see the frustration in her eyes. You have to document this, Layla insisted one night. Go to the police. At least make a report. Maya shook her head. And tell them what? That my ex-husband leaves flowers at my door and somehow hacked into a projector? He's careful. There's never proof. Layla reached across the table, squeezing her hand. Then we'll get proof. But you can't keep letting him win. Maya wanted to believe that. She wanted to believe there was a way out. One evening, after a long day of damage control at work, she found herself lingering in the lobby of her apartment building, reluctant to go upstairs. The thought of being alone in that quiet apartment, of waiting for the next subtle violation, made her chest tighten. That's when she noticed him. Adrian stood across the lobby, leaning casually against the wall in a crisp navy suit, his posture relaxed as if he owned the place. His eyes locked on hers, and his lips curved into that familiar half-smile. "Evening, Maya," he said smoothly, like he was greeting an old friend. Her pulse spiked. "What are you doing here?" "Visiting," he said, stepping closer. His cologne hit her before his words fully registered, that same scent that once clung to her pillows. "I was in the neighborhood, thought I'd check in. You look tired." She backed up, her hand tightening on her purse strap. "You don't get to check in. We're done. Stay away from me." His smile didn't falter. "You think a piece of paper changes everything we were? You'll see, Maya. You'll come around." The security guard shifted uneasily behind the desk, but Adrian gave him a polite nod, like he had every right to be there. Then, without another word, he walked out through the glass doors, leaving Maya frozen in place, her heart pounding. She realized then that the divorce hadn't ended anything. It had only marked the beginning of a different kind of war. One she hadn't chosen, but one she would have to fight if she ever wanted her freedom back. Maya didn't see Adrian for nearly 2 weeks after the lobby incident, but that didn't bring her peace. His absence was its own kind of torment, like waiting for the next shoe to drop. Every day she left her apartment with her shoulders tense, scanning the street, half expecting to see him leaning against a car, smiling that knowing smile. The silence was never safe. She tried to carry on. At work, she kept her head down, determined to rebuild her reputation after the humiliating sabotage of the client presentation. She drafted new proposals, volunteered for projects, stayed late. The office, at least, felt predictable, until Ethan started stopping by her desk. Ethan was a senior designer on another team, tall with an easygoing humor that seemed impervious to the stress swirling around the office. He'd always been polite, but lately he lingered longer, cracked jokes just for her, and once walked her to her car after a late night. "You need to breathe," he told her, handing her a paper cup of coffee one evening. "I swear, you're carrying the whole firm on your shoulders." Maya managed a small smile. "Maybe I just don't know how to stop." "Well," he said, grinning, "lucky for you, I'm an expert in distraction. Dinner? My treat." Her first instinct was to refuse. The idea of letting someone in, of risking Adrian's wrath if he found out, was terrifying. But Ethan's warmth was steady, not pushy, and she realized she was tired of letting fear dictate everything. "Okay," she said finally. "Dinner." It started simple. A cozy Italian place a few blocks from her apartment, then late-night walks, then movie. Marathons on weekends. Ethan wasn't flashy. He didn't shower her with gifts or declarations. Instead, he gave her something she hadn't realized she craved: normalcy. He asked about her day, listened without judgment, and made her laugh in a way that felt unforced. The first time in months, Maya felt a flicker of hope. Maybe Adrian couldn't touch this part of her life. Maybe she could build something new, but Adrian always had a way of knowing. The first sign came at work. Maya arrived one morning to find her boss waiting by her desk, lips pursed. "Can we talk in my office?" Her stomach sank. Inside, he shut the door and folded his hands. "I got an email from, well, someone claiming to be you. It says you're in a relationship with Ethan and using office resources to, quote, advance his career. Care to explain?" Maya's throat went dry. "That's not from me. I would never—" "I know," he said quickly, softening. "I trust you. But it's the second time something's come up, Maya. Someone's targeting you. Have you thought about involving HR?" She forced a nod, though the idea of laying it all out, Adrian's sabotage, his stalking, felt like painting herself as paranoid. "I'll consider it." Walking out of the office, she felt Adrian's invisible fingerprints all over the situation. He had found out about Ethan, and now he was twisting it into ammunition. Things escalated fast. Rumors began to spread, whispers in the break room, sidelong glances. Someone left an anonymous note on her desk. "Sleeping your way up won't end well." Ethan confronted her about it one evening after they'd left the office. "Is this about me?" he asked, frustration in his voice. "Because if I'm making things harder for you, just say the word." "No," Maya said quickly. "It's not you, it's—" She bit the words back, debating how much to reveal. Finally, she sighed. "It's my ex. He's been interfering. He wants to make me look unstable." Ethan studied her for a long moment. "That's intense." "You have no idea," she whispered. He reached for her hand. "Then let me help." The warmth of his grip steadied her. For a while, she let herself believe he could be a shield. Adrian, of course, made sure that shield cracked. It started with phone calls. Ethan would answer unknown numbers only to hear silence or heavy breathing before the line cut off. Once, a distorted voice muttered, "She'll ruin you." Then came the confrontation. Ethan later told her he had run into Adrian outside the office parking lot. At first, he didn't even realize who it was. The man was friendly, smiling, introducing himself as an old friend of Maya's. But the conversation turned quickly. "He told me you cheated on him," Ethan said one night, tension in his jaw. "That you're manipulative, that you have a history of breakdowns." Maya's chest tightened. "That's not true. He's trying to turn you against me." "I know," Ethan said firmly, though she could see the doubt flicker behind his eyes. "But, God, Maya, he's relentless. He makes it sound like you're dangerous." Tears burned her eyes. "That's what he does. He twists everything. He wants you to believe I'm broken, so you'll leave." Ethan wrapped his arms around her, but she could feel the unease in his hold. Adrian had planted seeds. Maya grew more isolated. Friends she hadn't seen in months started avoiding her calls, and Layla admitted one afternoon, "Adrian's been reaching out. He told people you're not doing well, that you're unstable. I don't believe him, Maya, but others—" Her voice trailed off. Maya pressed her palms to her eyes. "He's poisoning everything. My job, my friends, my relationship. Then we fight back," Layla urged. "We gather proof. We don't let him keep gaslighting you." But proof was slippery. Adrian left no paper trail, no fingerprints. Just whispers, rumors, and small acts that built into devastation. The breaking point came late on a Friday night. Maya and Ethan were curled up on his couch halfway through a movie when the doorbell rang. Ethan frowned, glancing at the clock. "It's almost midnight. Stay here." Maya's stomach nodded as she heard him open the door. Then a voice drifted in, smooth, calm, chillingly familiar. "Ethan, good to see you. I was hoping we could talk." Maya froze. Her blood turned to ice. Adrian. She heard the low murmur of Ethan's voice, then Adrian's laugh, casual as ever. "You're a good man, really. But Maya, she's complicated. I just don't want you blindsided when things unravel." Her body moved before her mind caught up. She rushed to the doorway, and there he was, Adrian, standing on Ethan's doorstep. As if he belonged, dressed neatly, his posture relaxed. His eyes flicked to her, and that half-smile curved his lips. "Maya," he said warmly, "I was just having a little chat." "Get out," she snapped, her voice trembling. Ethan stepped protectively between them, but Adrian only tilted his head. "Careful, sweetheart. You don't want to scare him off with all that anger. History has a way of repeating itself." Her hands shook. "Leave us alone." He studied her for a beat longer, then sighed as though disappointed. "I'll see you around." And just like that, he turned and walked into the night, his presence lingering like smoke in the air. Ethan closed the door, locking it firmly. He turned to Maya, his face pale. "He's not going to stop, is he?" Maya shook her head, tears spilling over. "No, not until I make him." The night Adrian appeared at Ethan's doorstep left Maya shaken for days. Every sound outside the apartment felt like a warning, every shadow a threat. She jumped when her phone buzzed, double-locked doors, and stopped walking home alone. Adrian had crossed a line. He wasn't just sabotaging her career anymore or whispering poison into other people's ears. He was embedding himself directly into her new life, testing how close he could get before she broke. Maya knew she couldn't keep running. If she didn't push back, Adrian would keep tightening his grip until there was nothing left of her. The thought terrified her, but fear wasn't enough to stop him. She needed proof, allies, and a plan. It began with documentation. At Layla's urging, Maya bought a small notebook and started recording everything: dates, times, incidents. Anonymous phone calls, flowers at her door, sabotaged presentations, all of it went into neat lines of ink. She took screenshots of the harassing emails, saved the threatening voicemails, even photographed the lilies before tossing them. "It may not feel like much," Layla said, flipping through the pages. "But this builds a pattern. Courts care about patterns." Maya nodded, though her hands trembled. She wasn't ready to imagine courtrooms and restraining orders, not yet, but writing things down gave her back a sliver of control. Ethan tried to be supportive, but Adrian's presence had left a crack between them. One evening, while they cooked dinner together, Ethan set the knife down a little too hard on the cutting board. "I don't know if I'm strong enough for this," he admitted. "He's everywhere, Maya. He's in your job, your friendships, even here, in my home. I want to be here for you, but—" She cut him off before he could finish. "If you want to leave, I won't blame you." The silence stretched heavy between them. Finally, Ethan reached for her hand, squeezing gently. "I don't want to leave. I just need to know we're not powerless." Maya met his eyes, determination slowly replacing fear. "Then we fight." The opportunity came sooner than she expected. One Friday afternoon, Maya received an email supposedly from her boss, demanding she forward confidential client files. Something about it felt off. The phrasing was too casual, the signature slightly different. She remembered the lessons drilled into her during security training. Trust your gut. Instead of replying, she called her boss directly. He was confused. He hadn't sent any such email. Maya forwarded the message to IT, who confirmed her suspicion. The sender's address was a clever spoof, masked to look legitimate. The request had originated from an IP address registered under Adrian's name. It was the proof she'd been waiting for. With Layla by her side, Maya went to the police station. She half expected to be dismissed, to be told it was a private matter. But the officer who took her report listened carefully, flipping through the evidence she'd gathered. "This isn't just harassment," he said, his voice steady. "This is stalking. You did the right thing documenting everything. We can start with a restraining order." Hearing those words, restraining order, felt surreal, but also empowering. For the first time, she saw a path forward that didn't involve shrinking into the shadows. Adrian, however, wasn't about to back down quietly. The restraining order was filed, and a copy served to him. Maya waited for the explosion, angry, calls, sudden appearances, but instead, there was silence. A week passed, then 2. She dared to hope it had worked, until one evening, as she left the office, she found Adrian leaning against her car. Her stomach dropped. "You're not supposed to be here," he smiled, holding up the folded restraining order like a prop. "This? Please. Do you really think a piece of paper keeps us apart?" Maya's heart pounded, but she forced her voice steady. "It proves what you are, a liar, a stalker, and I'm done letting you control me." His expression hardened, the charm slipping for the first time. "Careful, Maya. You've always needed me. Without me, you're nothing." She met his gaze, fire rising in her chest. "No. Without you, I'm finally free." Before he could respond, the sound of footsteps echoed in the garage. Ethan appeared, phone in hand, recording. Adrian froze, his jaw tightening as he realized he was cornered, caught on camera, violating a restraining order. For once, Maya saw uncertainty flicker in his eyes. He turned sharply and stalked off, his confidence cracking. The weeks that followed were grueling but liberating. With the restraining order violation documented, the police took her case more seriously. Adrian was warned, then charged when he continued to send anonymous emails traced back to him. His web of lies began to unravel. Maya leaned on Ethan, and Layla through the process, learning to reclaim the pieces of herself Adrian had chipped away at for years. Therapy helped, too, forcing her to confront the gaslighting and emotional abuse she'd endured. Healing wasn't linear. There were nights she woke in cold sweats, convinced Adrian was at her door, and mornings where self-doubt clawed at her. But each time she reminded herself, she had proof, she had allies, she had power. The final confrontation came in a courtroom. Adrian sat across from her, polished as ever in a suit, his expression composed. But when Maya took the stand, her voice didn't shake. She spoke clearly about the harassment, the sabotage, the stalking. She showed the emails, the voicemails, the IP trace, the footage from the garage. Piece by piece, she stripped away the mask he had worn so effortlessly. When the judge ruled in her favor, extending the restraining order and warning Adrian of harsher penalties if he violated it again, Maya felt something inside her loosen, a chain snapping free. Months later, Maya stood on her balcony with Ethan, the evening air cool against her skin. The city stretched out below, alive with lights and noise. "Do you ever think about him?" Ethan asked softly. Maya exhaled. "Sometimes, but not the way I used to. He doesn't own me anymore." Ethan slipped an arm around her shoulders. "Good, because you're stronger than he ever wanted you to believe." Maya leaned into him, her chest filling with something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. The scars Adrian left would always be there, faint reminders etched into her memory. But scars, she realized, weren't just signs of pain. They were proof of survival. And Maya had survived. She was free.